Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, finally back with another one of my football videos. As I mentioned before, I'm a Celtic fan, so as well as a fan of Italian football. I've been thinking about this idea for a bit of time, so I thought I'd cover this video. And instead of doing one of my usual list video, I'll do something a bit different. Just talking about some ideas in a non-list form, perhaps, but maybe it'll be easier to listen. As I said before, like, I'm a fan of Celtic, and as I tried to mention in the title, I couldn't fit the whole title in, but I think this is either a really foolish and naive idea of mine, or it's a really visionary, excellent idea. So I don't think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's either really terrible or really great, or really excellent. Hopefully the latter, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I know I mentioned this idea before on like Celtic groups on Facebook, but unfortunately I didn't get a very positive feedback. A lot of people thought my idea was really foolish, but or said it's not possible to get legal. But I want to talk about some of the reasons why I think, obviously it'd be hard to do without saying in this form, why I think that Celtic should be tax exempt. So I think one of the things is because Celtic was founded as a charity, by a Maoist, if that's the right way of pronouncing it, Maoist Catholic priest a long time ago to help the. I'm not a Catholic myself, to be honest, but it was founded by a Maoist, if that's the right word, Catholic priest or whatever, to help tackle poverty in Glasgow for the Irish Catholic immigrants at the time. So I think because it was founded as a charity and it does a lot of charity work in Glasgow and across Scotland, I'm sure, and also around the world, especially in developing countries and parts of Africa, like in Malawi and Kenya and places like that, they've done a lot of good charity work as far as I'm aware, which I think has hopefully made a positive output. Because of that charity work and the fact that it was founded as a charity and all the good work they do to help homelessness and things like that, I think that's I'll say, because it's founded as a charity and the charity work they continue to do till today, or try to do, I think that should make them tax exempt. And also another thing is that because it's like most Celtic fans probably a good, or at least half, or maybe more than half, are not supporters of like the British military or militarism, or certainly not the British military anyway, having Irish roots. Some might be, but most I think are not, and also not certainly most Celtic fans are not supporters of the royal family. Hopefully, I'm not saying Celtic fans should hate those things, because I think hating is a bad thing, but we as Celtic fans, as far as I'm aware, and I'm sure my fellow Celtic fans don't really support those things. So I think that it is a bit unfair to. I know the tax system isn't really fair, but I think it would be quite unfair to force people to pay taxes towards things we don't agree with morally. Like, if you are a conscientious objector, you choose not to join the military. So I think you should have the right to not pay taxes towards that sort of stuff. And I think that people really should choose where our tax money goes if we make money. So we shouldn't have to pay for things like that we don't agree with. And I think, like me, I'm an anti-imperialist and I'm not a supporter of the military or royal family or things like that, royalty or whatever. But I think people should be given the choice, even if people are more right-wing, because I can be right-wing in some areas, but even if people are more right-wing in terms of like they don't believe in overseas aid, I think even if I don't agree with them, I still think they should be able. I'd love people to be able to choose where the tax money goes, whether they're right-wing or left-wing, so they could choose the causes they want to support. Like me, I'd love to support homeless people and people around the world from developing countries and that sort of thing. So I think it'd be great to see Celtic being able to keep that money. And one of the things I was thinking, an idea I had in the past was that if Celtic did become tax exempt, then we as a club, or the club itself, the board, whatever, could use that money to help the poor people, to help young people in Glasgow, because it's one of the most deprived areas. So it could be, I know I've sort of touched on this a little bit before in terms of like some of my list videos, but I thought I'd try and focus specifically on this one idea for this video as much as possible. But I think that I know it's like a multifaceted idea or whatever, that's a big word for me, but it's like contains many things within it, but if that makes sense. But yeah, I think that it would be cool if that money was if the government allowed Celtic to keep that money, and even maybe backdated some of the taxes Celtic have paid before, and like pay back some of that tax money, or all of that tax money really, or give the alternative, the equivalent amount back in funding for what we pay in tax, maybe even more than that, like through lottery funds and government schemes which help Celtic to set up like football pitches and provide footballs and training opportunities for people across Glasgow, as it's one of the most deprived areas. That can help. Hopefully that also the club could discourage crime as part of that, and like encourage people to take part in football. It could help people to cut back on drinking or smoking or things that are not good for their health, so they can keep more healthy, which would benefit the health system, and it would keep people out of crime, which would hopefully help with lots of all the negative effects of crime, like the crime costs for the community, the damage crime causes and stuff like that. So by playing football, hopefully, and being part of the club, and which hopefully will encourage them to practice as much of their football as possible, but also, as I say, keep them from drinking, smoking, taking drugs, committing any sort of crime, anything like that. So hopefully instead they can focus on their football. And hopefully that would help a poor area like Glasgow. And I think that Celtic also should work, obviously, to a mutual benefit. Actually, I think those the people the organisation I'm going to mention should work with the club as well, so that it should be a mutually beneficial thing, in my opinion. Sorry if I'm not being very clear, but so I think that Celtic should work with the SNP or all different political parties within Scotland, especially those that represent Scotland, and like for the good work it does in charity, and also like other national parties like Plaid Cymru and Sinn Féin and parties like that, and also like anti-imperialist groups, given that Celtic has like Irish roots and has done a lot to tackle racism and to welcome migrants because I think Celtic, with its migrant roots, which is like a history of Irish immigration which came to work in the UK, I think most Celtic fans, not all, but most Celtic fans, I think, and as a club, Celtic appreciates migrants, or like tries to help them with rights and things like that. So as ever, I'd love to hear what people think about these quirky ideas of mine, and whether you think it's possible, and whether you think it would be the right thing to do or right thing to lobby for. I'd certainly love to hear from fellow Celtic fans, but also others as well. And another thing is Celtic could perhaps work with charities and NGOs as well, and like any money they save through tax could be used to help people, especially in Glasgow, like to tackle poverty and crime and things like that. So another thing is like young people could, as part of the club, like be encouraged by the club to like do stuff like litter picking in the area, or just generally helping homeless people, disabled people, disadvantaged people as much as possible, so they can be taught those values from a young age of helping other people and stuff like that as well. So but obviously with more funds, or not having to pay as much tax, or not having to pay tax, it could also mean that money would be made more available for those sorts of things. Anyway, so to avoid this video from being too long, I'm out. Peace and love.